Today I've got a really special guest who's going to help me demonstrate different shapes and sizes of softboxes. Stay tuned for it on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everyone, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a photo question, you know what to do. You just go to askdavidbergman.com and submit that form on the site. If it's one that I think is going to help a lot of other photographers, I just might pick your question and answer right here on a future show. Man, today I am so excited. I have my good friend Dean Edwards in the house.
Big Dave, what's going on, fam? How you?
Dean is an amazing comedian. He spent a couple seasons on Saturday Night Live. Yes, this man was on Saturday Night Live. And he currently has a brand new Netflix special out now. The funniest guy I know. Dean, thank you for being here.
David, it's an honor and pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Dean, if you don't know who Dean is, you've been living under a rock. He does so many great impressions. This guy, when Eddie Murphy is not available to do...
The Eddie Murphy?
The Eddie Murphy?
The Eddie Murphy.
When he is not available to do Shrek, to do Donkey, this is literally the man who does it.
Hey, somebody got to slide in there, so why not me?
This is the guy. He doesn't only do Eddie. Who else? You do Tracy Morgan?
Tracy, but I love Tracy.
Tracy's the best. We got Chris Rock in the house.
Chris Rock is right here.
There's no slapping going on today.
No, ain't no slapping.
Denzel Washington.
Denzel is always here, so if you're going to ask David Bergman.
Let me tell you, to see this guy do this live here in the studio, it's an incredible experience. I've seen him do it on TV so many times, on stand-up stages. Yeah. But to have him here in the studio, I'm so excited. Thanks, Dean.
I'm excited to get this rocking and rolling. Man.
Well, we do have a legit photo question.
Okay.
Sent in. This was sent in by Alan B. Alan, it's your lucky day. You get Dean helping me here.
AB in the building. What up, AB?
AB. And the question that Alan sent in is, I'm just starting out with off-camera flashes and I'm looking at light modifiers. I know there are several different sizes of softboxes as well as different shapes like rectangular and octa. How do I navigate through the options to find the best ones for me? Yes, that is a really good question. Thanks, Alan, for sending that in. So if you've been watching this show for a little while, you know I'm here in my New York City studio. I moved in here relatively recently, and I had kind of a mishmash. That's a technical word, a mishmash.
Totally.
Of different lights and modifiers. I'm really trying to unify my system here. So Westcott was nice enough to come in and bring some gear in today that I can play with. Westcott's known for their light modifiers. They've been making them forever. They now also have a really solid lineup of flashes too. The FJ400, the FJ200. I'm using the 400s here today, 400 watt seconds. Super consistent color-wise, really fast flash recycle. It's really been working nicely here today in the studio. I'm also using the FJ3 transmitter on my camera. Very easy to use, cross-platform, so that works. I'm a Canon shooter, as you all know, but if you shot another system, it works. This same transmitter works with them. The Sony has a different one. So there's also an adapter, but Canon, Nikon, pretty much all of them, it's going to work. So that's great for me. If I do a lighting workshop, when I do my lighting workshops, I can pass this thing around. Everybody can use it. Also, if you have friends come in and want to shoot with your lights, it's really nice because they can use the same transmitter with your lights. So that's really great. Now, as Alan said, though, there are so many different shapes and sizes of softbox out there. Westcott themselves make over a dozen different softboxes. And if you're talking light modifiers in general, there's probably hundreds of them, right? Yeah. So many choices. So what's a softbox? Dean, you know what a softbox is?
Why don't you inform me, since I am the Padawan, you are the Jedi Master.
The Padawan, yes. So a softbox, as it sounds, is a box that you put light into that softens the light. Pretty simple, right? Now, what we're talking about when we're talking about soft light is generally going to be more flattering on people. What soft light is, it's a smoother light. It's not as harsh of a light, not as hard of a light. How you make light softer is by making the light relatively bigger, right? So the relative size of the light, the bigger the size relative to the subject, the softer the light is. And this is one of those things where size actually does matter.
Hi-yo. I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm thinking.
We'll leave it at that. And bigger is always going to be a softer light. But bigger, again, we're saying relative size because it's in relation to the subject. So a small modifier, if you get it close in, it's going to be bigger, right? It's going to be bigger from the subject's perspective. If a big light source further away is actually a harder light because it gets smaller. The sun, for example. The sun is a giant light source, right? But it's so far away that it looks really small. Now, the sun, I said this in another video a bit of time ago. I said that it's the largest light source in our galaxy. And in the internet comments, you guys jumped on me. I know.
Yes, Neil deGrasse Tyson would correct you and tell you it's the largest light source in our solar system.
Neil, thank you for sharing that. Yes,
You're welcome.
I'm not an astrophysicist. It is the biggest light source in our solar system. I apologize for the internet for screwing that up, but we got it right here. Neil deGrasse Tyson corrected us. Thank you, Neil, for that. I appreciate it. Photographers just starting out with off-camera flash, usually what they will do is they'll buy a photo umbrella first. Umbrellas are cheap. They're easy to use. So it is often a first modifier. But the challenge with those is the light goes everywhere, right? The light just spreads in every direction. It's really hard to control. So usually after a bit of shooting with those, photographers will step up to a softbox. A softbox is going to give you more control, and you're going to have more options for shapes and sizes. Now, it might be a subtle difference in a lot of cases, but the different shapes and sizes actually do change how your image looks. So again, Dean's nice enough to come in here and pose for me today. So I'm going to shoot a couple pictures, and we're going to look at the difference. The first thing I'm going to use right here is this Westcott small Octa. This is the Rapid Box Octa-S. It's actually 26 inches in diameter. Now that's relatively small for a light modifier. Let me tell you what I'm shooting with here. This is the Canon EOS R5. I've got the 24-105 f4 lens, and again, I'm using the Westcott transmitter. I can obviously control all my lights right here from the transmitter. Very easy, turn them on and off, change the power. So let's do a couple quick pictures, and then we'll look at them and figure out what the difference is. So first, I'm just going to do a tight headshot. Okay. So I'll do 3 or 4 frames. Good. We're just Dean now, right? I don't see you very often. Usually it's somebody else. It's Denzel or it's Tracy or perfect. All right, now I'm gonna do some full bodies. Just gonna go wide here and we can look at the difference. Great, perfect. 2 more, last one. Perfect. Now, we're just doing a simple picture here on a white seamless, and you can see what's happening. Let's look at the headshot first. If I didn't mention, by the way, an Octa, obviously, it's 8 sides. That's why it's called an Octa-box. And the way I have it set up is I'm using what we call Rembrandt lighting, which traditionally it's like about 45 degrees over and 45 degrees up from your subject. Rembrandt used to paint using light that way. What really qualifies it is, the line, the shadow usually hits right in that cheek area right there.
I know some things.
There you go. He's schooled, this man. And then because I'm, again, I want to get that light in as close as I can, relatively close to the subject, because that's going to give me the softest light possible. Again, that larger relative size. But we can see the light on the face, it's pretty soft, right? It's much softer than if I was shooting with a bare light without any kind of modifier. But because it's a small source, it falls off quickly, right? The background shadow, there's a hot area on the left and it's darker on the right, and it falls off pretty quickly because it's a small light source, right? It's probably fine for a headshot, right? But when we start talking about a full body, it's a little more challenging. The light falls off a lot quicker. Now I'm in a white room here, so we've got a lot of light bouncing around. So we've got some fill coming in the lower body. But if I didn't have so much white in this room, we would definitely see more drastically that fall off. So what you want to do if you're shooting a wider area and not just doing headshots, you want to go to something like this. Let's move this out. Move the small one out. Pop that right there. Just get it out of the way.
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy, yep. So this, let's see if I can squeeze this through here without breaking anything. I'll try to put it at about the same
And these
spot.
fold down relatively simply.
They fold down really easily. Nice to travel with. Very, very easy. They don't obviously be hard if they were that big. Now, something to consider is I've got to move this out a little bit so it's not in my frame. But I'm trying to get it about the same distance that I had that small one. Now, this is the Rapid Box Octa-L. That was the S. This is the L. The diameter on this one, 48 inches, right? So that's twice the size across, right? So it's a much wider surface area. So it's going to be a softer quality of light because of the bigger area. Let's do the same thing. We're going to do some headshots and some full bodies. And Dean, I'm just going to let you do your thing. Perfect. Good. Excellent. Couple more. Great. Good. Now full body. I've got the modifier in the frame, but it doesn't matter, just to show what we're doing here. Good. 2 more. Last one. Perfect. Great. So now let's look at the difference. So compared to that small one, you can see the light fills much more of from top to bottom, right? But you can see bigger is going to be softer on the face. When we talk about softer, it's because this light is wrapping around more. When you have a small area just coming, it's just going to hit on the side.
Like a headlight.
Right. It's not going to really get around the other side. When we get to a bigger area, the light's coming from here and all the way from there. So it's going to wrap around just a little bit more. It doesn't, I love photographers generally say wrap. It doesn't actually curve. It's not light goes in a straight line, but because it's coming from here and doesn't end here, right? The smaller one. But it's not going to hit you from, it's not going to come around the corner,
coming from the back,
right? But because you're getting hit by light here and here and here and here and here, at a straight line, it's going to get more of your face than if it was just a smaller area, right? So when photographers talk about wrap, that's what they're usually talking about. Light, I love that because light doesn't actually wrap around, doesn't move that way. And especially when you get it closer, right? You're going to have more of that wrap. Now, the background, you can see we've got less of a shadow on the background because the same thing. We're getting light coming from different angles, from more angles than we were with the small one. So because it's a wider area, if you were shooting full body a lot, then yes, you absolutely should get a bigger softbox.
Because it's capturing more.
Because you're going to light more of the whole thing, right? And if you want to do multiple people, if you shoot 2 people or groups, the bigger, the better. Especially because in my pictures, I didn't care if it was in the frame, but of course you should care about that if you're for a real photo shoot. So you're going to need to back that up. So because you're backing it up, you want to be as wide as possible so that you can still have a soft quality of light and still shoot that whole frame.
Right.
Now, Alan also asked about different sizes, different shapes. So we also have things like this. So let's move this Octa out.
Oh.
Our 8 sides is going to go.
What's that? That's a rectangle.
And now this is a rectangle. Now, is a square a rectangle? I think it is, right? Aren't all squares rectangles?
A square is just a short rectangle that hasn't grown up.
Equidistant sides? I don't know, something like that. Hasn't grown up. I think all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are not squares. I think. So now I'm going to switch over to this. So let's turn off Group B. We'll go to Group C. So this is the Rapid Box 3x4. It's called that because
3 feet by 4 feet.
There you go, 3 feet by 4 feet.
He's learning.
It's very straightforward. This is more of a traditional softbox. For some reason, forever, this was what most softboxes looked like. They were rectangles. In recent years, we've moved more to the Octas. They're much more common than they used to be. But for decades, it was just the big rectangles.
I remember these when I was a kid taking school photos, but working in Hollywood, I see more of the Octas.
The Octas, yeah. The Octas are much more common now. I don't know exactly why that's happened, but it's just given us options. I like having options, right? Both of these, the rectangles and the Octas, are going to give you the same soft quality of light, right? The light on your face is really going to be the same softness, especially once we've got diffusion on there. Some of these have double layers of diffusion if you want. But the biggest difference between the rectangle and the Octa is just the shape of the light that comes out of it, right? So the fall off is going to be different. Let's take a couple pictures and we'll compare. So again, we're going to start with a headshot. And I'm set up to go here. Perfect. Good. These are great. Perfect. One more. Okay, now we'll go wide. Full body. Good. Excellent. Perfect. One more. 2 more. One more. Great. Perfect. And now you can, this difference is very subtle, right? It's not a huge difference, right? But the rectangular box is going to have a straighter edge, right? The light coming out is going to have a straighter edge. You see it more in the background. The fall off happens a little bit faster. It's really subtle, but it does happen a bit faster. Whereas the Octa, because it rounds out, that light coming out of it is going to be a little bit more round than a straight edge, right? That's going to give you a little more control, especially if you put a grid in there. If we used a grid, we'd see it even more because it does more to control the light. The other thing about a rectangular softbox is you can actually turn it. You can go, I have it in the vertical position, but you can make it horizontal. If you photograph, let's say, like a band of 3 people and you're just doing upper body, you might want to go horizontal to get that coverage. You don't care about the lower body. Right. So, or you may like the fall off in the lower body. That's up to you. It's a creative decision. The Octa generally is going to give you a little bit more room to work because it scatters in all directions. It's a more of a, the round source. If you have, let's say, an unpredictable subject, who might be jumping and dancing all over the place.
I know some of them.
you know a few of those. We both do. That may be a better way to work because because you don't have that fall off, it's going to give your subject more room to play, right? So if you photograph comedians for a living, you might want to consider going more of the, the Octa direction. Right. It's really just about how the light falls off and controlling light. Now, you can also get a rectangular softbox that's a lot more narrow. That's called, it's one of these. This is called a strip light. It's a strip of light, right? And what you really use those for, it's really good for like an edge light, right? It's just a very little strip of light. I'm not going to shoot with it now, but if I wanted to just light, a hair light overhead, you wouldn't want a big Octa for something like that because that light's going to go everywhere, right? It's going to hit the ground, it's going to bounce all over the place, and you wouldn't be able to control it. You could use, I've used these for like rim lights behind somebody. We talk about a separation light, getting just a little bit of separation on the hair if you put it behind somebody.
Right, when you see those movies and you see like a woman flip her hair, but there's like a nice glow along the edges of her hair.
Exactly.
Use those.
Yep, that's absolutely, you would probably do that with a strip light because if you had a big source, that light would come into the camera. You'd have flare. It'd be kind of a nightmare to control. It's a bit of a specialty modifier. It's probably not going to be the first softbox you buy. You're probably going to get a more traditional softbox first, but then maybe for your second or third or fourth light, you might get one or two of those. A couple other subtle differences are things like the Catchlight. The shape, if you shoot with a rectangular or with an Octa, the Catchlight in the eye, that's that little glint, that little drop of resin that's in your eye. A Catchlight's important in a picture because it gives the face life, right? When you don't see that little Catchlight, we expect to see the sun in people's eyes. That's just how human nature's been for, however long we've been around. We expect to see that light. If you don't, there's kind of a deadness in your...
So the octagon more mimics, say, the sun.
Exactly. So the octagon is more of a round source. So it definitely looks more like the sun, like we'd expect to see it. It's usually going to be up high, Rembrandt or up high. You wouldn't want to use an Octa necessarily as a fill light below because that might look weird to have a round source as a fill.
Spooky.
Right, exactly. But the rectangle is more like a window light. So maybe indoors, maybe outdoors I would lean towards the Octa. Indoors I might lean towards the rectangle if I have the choice. Also for a fill light, I might use a rectangle. I might also use something like the eye lighter. That's a curved light, a curved reflector that bounces light up. But
what about for, say, like products, if someone's shooting products?
Product photography. So if you're shooting products, you're going to get a really strong reflection. If you're something especially that's reflective, like a bottle or something like that, you're probably going to use, you really want to make your choice consciously, right? So you might use a rectangle for a bottle, for example, because you don't want a round light source on the bottle. Usually you just want, actually strip lights are a lot more common with things like bottles and glasses and things like that. So if you do that kind of photography, I don't shoot products. I prefer being around people. That's just me. I like being with people. So
we love you too.
there you go. It's way more fun when you get a guy like Dean in the studio. So, so yes, that is something that you're definitely going to be concerned about if that's the kind of work you do. A couple other things to consider when you're picking a softbox: the size of the room. Right. I'm fortunate I have big high ceilings here. If you're working in a 6 foot, tall 8-foot ceiling, you can't have a 6 foot modifier, right? That's going to be a problem. So, so that's something to consider. Also, the ease of setup we talked about before. Is it easy to travel with? If you work on location, you want to make sure you get one like these that are super easy to fold up and just throw in your bag, right? So that's really it, Dean. Appreciate you spending the time with me. Alan, I hope that helps make your decision on which size and shape of softbox to buy. Thanks for really sending in that question.
Thanks, ABZ.
ABC. All of you out there, I appreciate you joining me. Dean, seriously, man, who else has been here in the studio with us today?
We might have had Monique has been in here. Kid 50 Cent's in here. Jay-Z. Boom. Kevin Hart. Kev is definitely in here. And you're here, man, and I appreciate you having me. I look forward to coming back.
Dean, I appreciate it. I hope to get you back in the studio. Yeah. Remember, you guys, if you're not already a subscriber to the Adorama YouTube channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Use that little bell icon, the little bell there. The bell. Ring the bell. You'll be notified as soon as new photo shows come out for myself and all the other hosts right here all week long on Adorama TV. Yeah. Hope to see you again next time. I'll have a brand new question. I know Dean knows what the show is called, but you're going to come back here and join me right here next time on
Ask David Bergman. Ha ha, yeah.